The Black Maid was thrown out without a single word of explanation. But what the Mafia boss's twin daughters screamed in that moment would bring the most dangerous man in Seoul to his knees. The brown leather suitcase hit the marble steps with a hollow thud that echoed through the courtyard. Elena Robert never imagined that after 2 years of loving Hana and Yuna like her own, she would be cast out like a common criminal. Her powder blue uniform was still smudged with soot from putting out a fire in the nursery just an hour ago. She clutched her suitcase tighter, desperately fighting the tears that blurred her vision as she descended the mansion steps. Behind her, Ryo Jun stood like a statue in his tailored black suit, his neck tattoos dark and menacing above his crisp white collar. He checked his silver watch with cold indifference, as if her devastation was simply wasting his time. He wouldn't even look at her. His eyes were fixed on the diamond necklace, the evidence that condemned her, but it was the sound that shattered the night. Two small voices, raw with terror and heartbreak, screaming from behind the iron gates. "Elena! No, Daddy, please!" Hana and Yuna, still in their matching pink pajamas, broke free from the guards and ran down the steps, their little arms outstretched, fingers grasping at air. June grabbed them back without a word, his face unreadable, unmoved. The gates began to close. The twins' screams grew more desperate, and Elena walked away from the only family she'd ever known, not knowing that what those little girls witnessed would change everything. Subscribe to see how this unfolds and comment where you're watching from. I will love to say hello to you just to know how far our story is going. 8 hours earlier, the morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the Ryu mansion, casting long shadows across the nursery floor. Elena Robert knelt before the stone fireplace, her white apron already streaked with ash as she scrubbed at the stubborn soot stains left from the previous night. The twins had wanted to roast marshmallows before bed, and she'd indulged them, laughing as Hana got chocolate on her nose and Yuna tried to teach her a Korean song. She smiled at the memory, not noticing the designer heels that clicked softly across the hardwood behind her. Minji Lee stood in the doorway, her red lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. She wore a cream-colored silk blouse that probably cost more than Elena made in a month, and her perfectly manicured nails drummed against her Chanel clutch as she watched the maid work. Her eyes, dark and calculating, swept across the room until they landed on Elena's worn canvas bag sitting on the window seat right where the foolish woman left it every single day. "Elena." Minji's voice was honey-sweet, the kind of sweetness that made Elena's skin prickle with unease. "June asked me to remind you that he'll be inspecting the house tonight. Everything must be perfect." Elena turned, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead with the back of her soot-stained hand. "Of course, Miss Lee. I'll have everything ready." "I'm sure you will." Minji's smile widened as she glanced meaningfully at the bag. "You're always so thorough." As Minji's heels clicked away down the corridor, Elena returned to her scrubbing, unaware that the woman had left something precious hidden in the depths of her canvas bag, something that would destroy her life in less than 12 hours. The diamond necklace, a family heirloom worth more than Elena would earn in 10 lifetimes, lay nestled among her cleaning supplies, waiting to be discovered like a loaded gun. An hour later, Elena smelled smoke. She was in the laundry room folding linens when the acrid scent hit her nostrils. Her head snapped up, and she dropped the sheets, racing toward the nursery. Smoke was seeping from under the door. She burst in to find flames licking up the curtains near the window. The sheer white fabric Minji had been adjusting earlier was now ablaze, the fire spreading toward the wooden bookshelf. The twins were at their afternoon music lesson downstairs. Thank God. Elena grabbed the fire extinguisher from the hallway and sprayed down the flames, coughing as smoke filled her lungs. It took 3 minutes to put it out completely, leaving the curtains in charred ruins and soot covering everything. The walls, the floor, her apron. She was still catching her breath, surveying the damage, when Minji appeared in the doorway. For just a moment, Elena saw panic flash across the woman's face as she stared at the burned curtains. Then it was gone, replaced by that saccharine smile. "Oh my," Minji said softly. "How careless of you, Elena. June will be very disappointed." "I didn't," Elena started, but Minji was already walking away, her heels clicking with purpose. Elena looked down at her soot-stained apron and felt ice slide down her spine. She'd just saved the house from burning down. But somehow, she knew Minji would find a way to make this her fault too. The day passed in its usual rhythm. Elena prepared the twins' lunch, helped them with their afternoon lessons, and tried not to flinch every time Minji swept past her with that strange, triumphant gleam in her eyes. By evening, the mansion gleamed, every surface polished, every corner pristine. She was folding laundry in the twins' room when she heard it, the deep rumble of June's sports car pulling into the circular driveway. Her heart did that stupid little flutter it always did when he came home, even though she knew better. Even though he'd never looked at her as anything more than the help. Hana and Yuna squealed and abandoned their coloring books, racing toward the stairs. Elena followed more slowly, gathering their scattered crayons, trying to ignore the way her pulse quickened at the sound of his voice echoing through the foyer. But something was wrong. Minji's voice, usually so controlled and refined, came sharp and hysterical from the living room. "It's gone! June, it's gone! Your grandmother's necklace, someone took it!" Elena froze at the top of the stairs, the box of crayons nearly slipping from her hands. "When did you last see it?" June's voice was low, dangerous, the kind of calm that preceded violence. "This morning! I wore it this morning and put it back in my jewelry box before my lunch appointment. And now," Minji's voice broke convincingly, "now it's just gone." Elena descended the stairs slowly, dread pooling in her stomach. The twins clung to the banister, their little faces confused and frightened. She reached them just as June emerged from the living room, his black suit immaculate, his expression carved from ice. The tattoos on his neck seemed darker somehow, more menacing in the dim evening light. His hand rested on the lapel of his suit jacket, that gesture of authority she'd seen him use when he was about to destroy someone's life with a single order. "Search the house," he said to the two men in dark suits who flanked him. His lieutenants. Every room. Every bag. Every pocket. "Sir." Elena started forward, but Minji was faster. "Her." Minji pointed a trembling finger at Elena, her eyes wet with crocodile tears. "She's the only one who has access to my room. She cleans it every day. She knew exactly where I kept it." "That's not true," Elena said, her voice steady despite the terror clawing up her throat. "I would never." "Check her bag." June's voice cut through her protests like a blade. He still hadn't looked at her. Not once. One of the guards moved toward the nursery where Elena had left her canvas bag that morning. Time seemed to slow to a crawl. The twins were crying now, soft, confused whimpers that broke Elena's heart. She wanted to run to them, to cover their ears, to shield them from whatever was about to happen. The guard returned, his face grim. In his gloved hand, the diamond necklace glittered under the chandelier like a noose made of light. "No," the word escaped Elena's lips in a whisper. "No, I didn't. I don't know how that got there. I swear to you I would never." "Enough." June's voice was arctic. He finally looked at her, and Elena wished he hadn't. There was nothing in those dark eyes. No warmth, no doubt, no mercy. Just cold, absolute judgment. "Get out. Before I forget, you are a woman and treat you like a thief. Please." Elena moved toward him, desperation making her bold. "Please, just listen. You have 10 minutes to pack your things and leave my house." He turned his back on her, his hand already reaching for his phone. "If you're still here in 11, I'll have you arrested." "Daddy, no." Yuna's small voice rang out, and suddenly both twins were there, clutching at Elena's apron, their faces wet with tears. "Elena didn't do it. She didn't. To your room. Now." June didn't even turn around. "But Daddy." Now, the twins flinched at his roar, and Elena felt something crack inside her chest. She knelt down, pulling them into her arms one last time, breathing in their little girl scent of strawberry shampoo and innocence. "It's okay," she whispered, pressing kisses to their foreheads. "It's going to be okay. Be good, my loves. Be so good." Then the guards were pulling her away, and the twins were screaming. and Elena was stumbling up the stairs to pack a life into a single suitcase while her vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. Not yet. Not where he could see. The motel room smelled like cigarette smoke and cheap disinfectant. Elena sat on the edge of the sagging mattress, her powder blue uniform still smudged with soot from a morning that felt like a lifetime ago, and finally let herself break. She didn't cry for the job. She didn't cry for the injustice of being framed, or for the reputation she'd never be able to rebuild. She cried because she hadn't gotten to say goodbye. Not really. She cried because Hannah had been in the middle of learning her multiplication tables, and Yuna was just starting to read chapter books on her own, and Elena would never know if they mastered those things. She cried because those little girls called her Mama Elena when they thought no one was listening, and now they'd think she'd abandoned them without a word. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Leave the country. Tonight. Don't make this worse for yourself." Elena stared at the message, her tears drying into something harder. A threat. From June. Or one of his men. They wanted her gone. Erased. As if she'd never existed at all. She thought about fighting. About going to the police. Demanding an investigation. But she'd watched enough crime dramas to know how this would play out. A black foreign maid accusing a powerful Korean mafia boss of framing her. She'd be deported before she could finish the sentence. Her laptop was still in her suitcase. With trembling hands, she pulled it out and opened a flight search. Los Angeles. Atlanta. Anywhere but here. The cheapest ticket she could find left in 4 days enough time to scrape together what little money she had left. Through the thin motel walls, she could hear a baby crying. She curled onto her side, clutching her phone to her chest, and wished for sleep that wouldn't come. The mansion was too quiet. June had noticed it immediately when he'd returned from his meeting that morning. No laughter echoing from the nursery. No small feet pattering down the halls. No sing-song voices practicing English phrases while they helped set the table. Nothing. He found the twins in their room, sitting on Yuna's bed in silence. They'd locked the door from the inside, and when he'd ordered them to open it, they'd simply stared at the wood as if he didn't exist. It had taken his head of security 20 minutes to pick the lock. Now June stood in the doorway, studying his daughters with something approaching confusion. They sat with their backs pressed together, arms crossed, identical expressions of stubborn grief on their small faces. They'd been wearing the same pink pajamas since last night. They hadn't changed. Hadn't come down for breakfast. Hadn't responded to any of his attempts at conversation. Hannah. Yuna. He used his boss voice, the one that made grown men tremble. "This is unacceptable. Get dressed. Come downstairs. Eat something." Neither child moved. "I'm not asking." Yuna's lower lip trembled, but she lifted her chin and stared at the wall. Hannah reached for her sister's hand and squeezed it tight. Something uncomfortable twisted in June's chest. He wasn't used to being defied, wasn't used to his orders being ignored. And he certainly wasn't used to feeling helpless in the face of 2 5-year-old girls who barely reached his waist. She didn't do it. Yuna's voice was barely a whisper. "What?" Elena didn't take the necklace. Hannah's voice was stronger, but it shook with suppressed tears. She wouldn't. She would never. The evidence. "I don't care about evidence!" Yuna exploded, turning to face him for the first time. Her eyes, so much like his late wife's, blazed with a fury that looked wrong on such a young face. "Elena loves us! She would never steal from us! And you threw her away like she was nothing. You don't understand." "We understand that you didn't even let her explain." Hannah's voice joined her sister's. "We understand that you believed Miss Minji over Elena. We understand that you're mean and we hate you." The words hit harder than any bullet June had ever taken. His daughters, his little girls, looking at him like he was a monster. Maybe he was. "Get out," Yuna said, her voice cold in a way that made her sound far too much like him. "We don't want to talk to you." June stood there for a long moment, warring with instincts that told him to command, to control, to force obedience. But something in their faces stopped him. Something that looked like fear. They were afraid of him. He backed out of the room slowly, pulling the door closed behind him. In the hallway, he pressed his palm against the wood and listened to his daughter's cry. Minji arrived that evening in a cloud of expensive perfume and false sympathy. "They're just confused, darling," she cooed, trailing her fingers down June's arm as they stood outside the twins' locked door. "Children don't understand these things. They'll adjust once they realize that Maid was using them." June didn't answer. He was staring at the door, thinking about how long it had been since he'd heard his daughter's voices, how the silence in his house felt like death. "I'll talk to them," Minji said brightly. "Woman to woman. Or, well, woman to little women." She laughed at her own joke. "They just need a mother's touch," she knocked delicately. "Hana? Yuna? It's Miss Minji. Can I come in, sweethearts?" Silence. "I brought you new dresses for the charity gala tomorrow. Beautiful pink ones with ribbons. Don't you want to see?" More silence. And then, quietly, "Go away." Minji's smile tightened. She glanced at June, then back at the door. "Girls, I really think we should talk about this. Your father and I are very worried." "You're not our mother." Hana's voice was flat, dead. "You'll never be our mother. Elena was our mother, and you made Daddy send her away." Something flickered across Minji's face, something ugly that vanished almost as quickly as it appeared. "I'll try again tomorrow," she said sweetly, touching June's shoulder. "They'll come around. Children always do." But tomorrow came, and the twins still wouldn't leave their room. By the afternoon, June was standing outside their door again, this time with Minji and a tray of food the cook had prepared all the twins' favorites. Mac and cheese. Chicken nuggets shaped like dinosaurs. Apple slices with peanut butter. "Please," he said, and hated how the words sounded like begging. "You need to eat something." "We're not hungry," came Yuna's weak reply. "You haven't eaten in 2 days." "Don't care." Minji pushed past him, her patience clearly wearing thin. "That's enough of this nonsense. Hana, Yuna, open this door right now or there will be consequences." "What are you going to do?" Hana challenged. "Take away Elena?" "Oh, wait. You already did that. I will not be spoken to this way by children." Minji's voice had lost all its sweetness. "Your father is the head of this household, and I am going to be your mother, and you will show us both respect." "Never." Both twins said it at once, and June heard the sound of something being pushed against the door from the inside. Furniture. They were barricading themselves in. Minji whirled on him. "Are you going to let them talk to me like this? To us?" June stared at the door, at the tray of untouched food in his hands, at the woman beside him who was supposed to be his future wife and the mother his children deserved. "Leave them," he said quietly. "They'll come out when they're ready." But he didn't believe it. And judging by the fury in Minji's eyes, neither did she. The gala was in 6 hours, and Minji's patience had finally snapped. June was in his office, handling business calls, when he heard the shouting. By the time he reached the second floor, Minji was using a screwdriver to force open the twins' door, her designer dress hiked up, her hair coming loose from its perfect chignon. "What are you doing?" June demanded. "What you should have done 2 days ago," she hissed. "They're going to that gala tonight, if I have to drag them there myself." The lock gave way with a crack. The door swung open to reveal Hana and Yuna huddled together on the floor between their beds, looking small and terrified and thin. Too thin. Their matching pajamas hung loose on their frames, and dark circles shadowed their eyes. "Out." Minji pointed at June. "Let me handle this." Every instinct screamed at him to intervene, but he'd lost his daughter's trust. Maybe Minji could reach them. Maybe a woman's touch was what they needed. He stepped back. The door closed. For a moment, there was silence. Then Minji's voice, syrupy and false. "Now, girls, we're going to get you cleaned up and dressed like the little princesses you are." "No." Yuna's voice trembled. "I wasn't asking, sweetheart." "We're not going anywhere with you." Hana sounded braver than her sister, but June could hear the fear underneath. "Yes," Minji said, and suddenly her voice was different. Harder, colder. Nothing like the sweet tone she used when June was listening. "You are. Because the trash is gone now, and you're going to listen to me. Understand? She's not trash," Yuna cried. "You're the trash. You're Ow, stop." A sharp cry of pain echoed through the door. June's hand was on the doorknob before his brain caught up to his body. He froze, listening. "Do that again, and I'll give you something to really cry about." Minji's voice was barely recognizable. "Now put on these dresses. We have 20 minutes. I want Elena," Hana sobbed. "I want Mama Elena." "Well, Elena is gone, and she's never coming back, because she's a thief and your father finally saw sense. Now get dressed, or I'll dress you myself, and I won't be gentle about it." Through the door, June heard his daughters crying, that helpless, terrified kind of crying that children do when they realize no one is coming to save them. His hand fell away from the doorknob. He walked back to his office, poured himself 3 fingers of whiskey, and told himself this was for the best. Minji was establishing boundaries. Children needed discipline. This was normal, but that night, after the gala, after Minji left in her chauffeured car with a kiss to his cheek and a promise to fix those girls, June stood outside his daughter's room and listened to them whispering in the dark. "She hurt us," Yuna said. "I know. She said Elena is never coming back." "I know, Hana. I don't feel good." "Me neither. My head hurts. And I'm so cold." June pressed his forehead against the door and wondered when his house had become a prison. The call came at 3 in the morning. June had fallen asleep at his desk, whiskey glass still in hand, when his phone buzzed with a message from the house staff. "The young misses are burning up. We can't get their fevers down." He took the stairs 3 at a time, his heart hammering against his ribs in a way that had nothing to do with exertion and everything to do with primal fear. When he burst into their room, the night nurse was pressing cool cloths to their foreheads, but even from the doorway he could see the flush on their cheeks, the way their small bodies trembled beneath their blankets. "How high?" he demanded. 103 for Miss Hana. 103.4 for Miss Yuna. The nurse's face was grave. "I've given them fever reducers, but they won't keep anything down. They haven't eaten properly in days, sir. Their bodies have nothing left to fight with." June moved to Hana's bedside, pressing his palm to her forehead. She was burning up, her skin dry and hot as desert sand. "Call Dr. Kim, now." "Already on his way, sir." He sank into the chair between their beds, one hand on each daughter's arm, feeling utterly useless. This was not an enemy he could threaten, not a problem he could solve with money or violence or cold calculation. This was his children, slipping away from him degree by degree, and he had no weapon against it. "Mama," Yuna whimpered in her sleep, her head tossing on the pillow. "Mama Elena, don't go." "Shh," June whispered, though the word felt foreign on his tongue. When had he last comforted them? When had he last been anything but the distant figure who gave orders and expected obedience? "It's okay. Daddy's here." But Yuna's fever-bright eyes didn't open. She just kept calling for Elena, over and over, the name a prayer on her cracked lips. Hana was quieter, but no less distressing. She curled into a tight ball, her small fists clenched against her chest, and breathed in short, painful gasps. "Cold," she muttered. "So cold. Mama, I'm cold." June pulled the blankets higher, but they did nothing. The cold his daughters felt wasn't the kind that came from temperature. It was the cold of abandonment, of loss, of a world that had suddenly become unsafe. Dr. Kim arrived 20 minutes later, his medical bag in hand and concern etched into every line of his face. He was June's personal physician, the only doctor in Seoul who understood that discretion was more valuable than publicity when treating the city's underground elite. "How long have they been like this?" Dr. Kim asked as he checked their vitals. "The fever started tonight, but they haven't eaten in 3 days. The doctor's head snapped up. 3 days? And you didn't call me? They were staging a protest. I thought. June's voice caught. I thought they would cave. Children don't cave, Mr. Ryu. They break. Dr. Kim moved between the beds, checking pupils, listening to hearts, taking temperatures. They're dehydrated and malnourished. Their bodies are shutting down from stress. I need to start IV fluids immediately. As the doctor worked, setting up drips in their tiny arms, June watched his daughters fade in and out of consciousness. Sometimes they would cry out for Elena. Sometimes they would just whimper, small animal sounds of pain that carved pieces out of his chest. "They're asking for someone named Elena," Dr. Kim observed quietly as he adjusted Yuna's IV. "Who is that?" "Their maid." The word tasted like ash. "Their nanny. I fired her 3 days ago." "Ah." Dr. Kim's tone said everything his words didn't. "Mr. Ryu, I'm going to speak to you not as your employee, but as a father. Whatever happened between you and this woman, your daughters are grieving. This isn't a tantrum. This is trauma. Young children who lose a primary caregiver can develop something called attachment disorder. If this continues." "It won't continue." June's voice was steel. "Make them better, whatever it costs. This isn't about cost. This is about what they need. Doctor." Kim closed his bag with a decisive snap. "The IVs will help with the physical symptoms, but the emotional damage? That's on you to fix." After the doctor left, June stayed. He didn't go back to his office or his bedroom. He stayed in that chair between his daughters' beds as the night crawled toward dawn, listening to them call for a woman he'd thrown away like garbage. The sun was rising when Hana's fever finally broke. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused and glassy, and landed on him. "Daddy?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "I'm here, Princess. Where's Mama Elena?" The question was a knife between his ribs. "She's away. Because of you." It wasn't an accusation, just a fact, stated with the simple clarity of a child who saw the world in black and white, right and wrong, love and betrayal. "Yes," he said, because lying to her now felt like another sin he couldn't afford. "Because of me." Hana closed her eyes, 2 tears sliding down her temples into her hair. "I hate you." "I know. Yuna hates you too." "I know that too. We'll never forgive you." June reached out and smoothed the damp hair from her forehead. "I don't expect you to." She fell back asleep, and he sat there watching his daughters breathe, wondering how he'd become the villain in his own children's story. It was Minji's perfume that woke him. June had dozed off sometime after dawn, his head tipped back against the chair, one hand still resting on Hana's arm. He jerked awake to find Minji standing in the doorway, immaculate in a powder blue dress suit, her lips pursed in disapproval. "Still here?" She made it sound like weakness. "They're sick." "I can see that." She moved closer, her heels clicking across the hardwood. Poor darlings. All this fuss over a maid. Something in her tone made June's jaw tighten, but before he could respond, Yuna stirred. Her eyes opened, landed on Minji, and suddenly she was screaming. It wasn't the scream of a sick child wanting to be left alone. It was the scream of prey seeing a predator. Pure, primal terror. "Get away!" Yuna scrambled back against her headboard, her IV line pulling taut. "Get away from us!" Hana was awake now too, her eyes wide and wild. "Make her leave! Daddy, make her leave! Girls, calm down." Minji started forward, her hand outstretched. "Don't touch us!" Hana shrieked. "Don't you dare touch us! What is wrong with you two?" Minji's voice sharpened. "I'm trying to help." "She put it there." Yuna was sobbing now, pointing at Minji with a shaking finger. "We saw her!" "She put the necklace in Elena's bag." The room went silent. June stood slowly, his eyes moving between his daughters and his fiancé. "What did you say?" "She's the thief." Hana's voice was raw. "Not Elena." Minji took her own necklace and put it in Elena's bag to make Elena go away. "That's ridiculous." Minji laughed, but the sound was too high, too bright. "They're delirious with fever. They don't know what they're saying." "We know exactly what we're saying." Yuna scrambled out of bed, dragging her IV pole with her as she ran to her toy chest. "We have proof." June watched as his daughter dug through stuffed animals and building blocks until she emerged with a white teddy bear wearing a pink bow. She pressed something on its chest, and suddenly the bear's stomach opened to reveal a small camera. "We were scared of her," Hannah said quietly from her bed. "She was always mean when you weren't looking. So we hid the nanny cam that Elena bought us for safety. We wanted to catch her being mean so you'd believe us. Yuna thrust the bear at her father, but we caught something worse. June took the bear with hands that had gone numb. His daughters had bought a nanny cam. His 5-year-old daughters had felt unsafe enough in their own home to resort to hidden surveillance, and he hadn't noticed. This is absurd. Minji's voice had lost all its sweetness. June, you're not actually going to believe. Be quiet. The bear had a small LCD screen embedded in its back. June pressed play. The footage was grainy, shot from the angle of a toy sitting on the nursery shelf. The timestamp showed the morning 3 days ago. On screen, Elena knelt in front of the fireplace, scrubbing at soot stains, her back to the camera. She was humming something, a lullaby, maybe. Behind her, the door opened. Minji entered, looking left and right like a thief in her own house. She crossed to the window seat where Elena's canvas bag sat innocently in the morning light. Her hand reached into her designer clutch and pulled out the diamond necklace, his grandmother's necklace, the one she claimed had been stolen. She buried it deep in Elena's bag, arranging cleaning supplies over it to hide the glitter. Then she smoothed her dress, checked her reflection in the window, and left. The whole thing took less than 20 seconds. June watched it twice, then a third time, because some part of his brain refused to accept what his eyes were showing him. This was the woman he'd planned to marry, the woman he'd trusted to be a mother to his children, the woman for whom he'd destroyed an innocent person's life. He pressed a button, and the footage advanced. Now the angle showed the twins' beds, the timestamp from 2 days ago. Minji stood over the girls, her face twisted into something ugly and cruel. On the silent footage, her mouth moved, forming words. Then her hand shot out and pinched Yuna's arm hard enough that even through the camera, June could see his daughter flinch. He stopped the video. The room was spinning, or maybe it was just the world tilting on its axis, rearranging itself around this new, terrible truth. He'd built an empire on his ability to read people, to spot lies, to separate truth from fiction with deadly accuracy. And he'd been played by a woman in Chanel and pearls. June. Minji's voice was different now, smaller. Let me explain. He looked up at her, and whatever she saw in his face made her take a step back. You hurt my children. They were being difficult. You framed an innocent woman. She was getting in the way of our family. There is no our family. His voice was so quiet it was almost inaudible, but it carried the weight of an execution order. There is no us. There never will be. You're being dramatic. So I planted the necklace. So what? She was just a maid. You can hire another. Get out. June, please just listen. Get out. He took a step toward her, and Minji stumbled backward. Go downstairs. Wait in the living room. If you try to leave this house, my men will stop you. Do you understand? Something in his face must have finally penetrated her denial. She nodded, her perfect makeup starting to crack around her eyes, and fled. June turned back to his daughters. They were both out of bed now, huddled together by Yuna's nightstand, watching him with expressions he couldn't read. Fear? Hope? Both? I'm sorry. The words felt inadequate, microscopic in the face of what he'd done. I'm so sorry. Are you going to bring Elena back? Yuna asked. Yes. You promise? Hannah's voice shook. I promise. He crossed to them, dropping to one knee so he was at their level. I'm going to fix this. I don't know if she'll forgive me. I don't know if you'll forgive me. But I'm going to try. For the first time in 3 days, his daughters looked at him without hate. Okay, Yuna whispered. Okay, Daddy. Minji was pacing the living room like a caged animal when June descended the stairs. She'd poured herself a glass of wine, his most expensive vintage, naturally, and was halfway through it, her hands shaking so badly the liquid sloshed against the crystal. June. She turned at the sound of his footsteps, her face composed into something that might have been remorse if he didn't know better. I can explain everything. I was just trying to protect our future together. That woman had you under some kind of spell. She was turning your daughters against me. Stop talking. She stopped. June held up the teddy bear, its camera eye staring at her like an accusation. I'm going to give you one chance. One. To leave this city quietly. You're throwing me out? Over some footage that could be doctored? Over a maid? Her voice was climbing toward hysteria. I'm Min-ji Lee. My father owns half the shipping industry in Korea. You can't just— Your father, June said quietly, owes me 600 million won from a shipping deal that went south last year. Money I've chosen not to collect because we were planning a merger through marriage. Would you like me to call in that debt? Because I will. Tonight. I'll take his company apart, brick by brick. Minji's face went white. Or, June continued, his voice still soft, still deadly, you can get in your car and drive away. Leave Seoul. Leave Korea if you're smart. Because if I see your face again, if I hear your name again, if you so much as send a text message to anyone in my household— He paused, letting the threat hang in the air like smoke. You know what I'm capable of. You know what I've done to people who hurt my family. The maid hurt your family too. Minji spat. She stole from you. No. You did that. You stole my daughter's happiness. You stole 3 days of their childhood. You stole Elena's reputation and her sense of safety. He moved closer, and Minji pressed herself against the wall. You're lucky I'm a father first and a killer second, because right now, the killer in me wants to put you in the ground. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black rivers, but June felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, just cold, crystalline clarity. Get out, he said. You have 10 minutes. After that, my mercy expires. 2 of his guards appeared from the shadows, their faces impassive, and escorted Minji toward the door. She went without fight, stumbling in her designer heels, her sobs echoing through the foyer. The door closed behind her with a final, decisive click. June stood in the empty living room, his phone already in his hand, calling his most trusted lieutenant. I need Elena Roberts' current location. Now. There was a pause. Then, Sir, she's booked on a flight to Los Angeles. Departs from Incheon in 45 minutes. 45 minutes. June was already moving, taking the stairs 2 at a time, bursting into his daughter's room. Get dressed. Fast as you can. We're going on a drive. Where? Hana was already scrambling for clothes. To get Mama Elena back. The sports car wasn't built for 3 people, but June made it work. The twins squeezed into the passenger seat together, still in their pajamas with coats thrown over them, their IV puncture marks covered with cartoon bandages. They clutched each other as June gunned the engine, and the car screamed out of the driveway, gravel spraying. Sir, you can't just drive through airport security, his lieutenant said through the car's speakers. Even with your credentials. Watch me. The drive to Incheon should have taken an hour. June made it in 30 minutes, the speedometer pushing limits that would have earned anyone else a reckless driving charge. Rain had started to fall, a torrential downpour that turned the highway into a river of brake lights and hydroplaning tires. He didn't slow down. Daddy, you're scaring us, Yuna whispered, but she didn't ask him to stop. I know, Princess. Hold on tight. The airport rose out of the rain like a glass cathedral, its lights blurred by the downpour. June bypassed the normal entrances, flashing credentials at security checkpoints, using connections and threats and cold cash to cut through the bureaucracy that would have stopped anyone else. His phone rang. Dr. Kim. Sir, the girls need to rest. They'll rest when we have Elena back. They were at 103 degrees 3 hours ago. She's boarding in 8 minutes. We're almost there. He parked illegally, left the car running, and ran. The twins ran with him, their small hands clutched in his, their pink pajamas drawing stares from travelers as they sprinted through the terminal. Past check-in. Past security, more credentials, more threats, more promises of consequences if they delayed him. Gate 47. Los Angeles. Boarding now. June's eyes scanned the crowd, searching for powder blue, for dark skin, for the face he'd only truly seen in the moment he'd destroyed her life. And then, there. Elena stood in line for boarding, third from the door, her canvas bag slung over her shoulder and that same brown leather suitcase in her hand. She wore jeans and a simple sweater now, her hair down instead of pulled back, and she looked small, defeated. Like someone who'd been broken and was just trying to hold the pieces together long enough to get home. Elena, his voice cracked on her name. Half the terminal turned to stare, but June didn't care. He was already moving toward her, the twins racing ahead of him. Elena turned, her eyes going wide. She saw the girls first, and her face crumpled joy and confusion and hope all warring in her expression. Then she saw him, and the hope died. She picked up her suitcase and turned back toward the boarding door. Please. June caught her arm gently, carefully, ready to let go the moment she pulled away. Please, just 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes. I gave you 2 years, Elena said, her voice raw. I gave you everything, and you threw me out like trash based on a lie. I know. You wouldn't even let me explain. I know. You broke your daughter's hearts. I know. He was still holding her arm, and he could feel her trembling. Or maybe that was him. Elena, I was wrong. About everything. Minji framed you. The twins had a camera. They saw her plant the necklace. They saw her hurt them. I saw the footage. Elena stared at him, her eyes searching his face for deception. You're lying. He's not lying. Yuna was there suddenly, crashing into Elena's legs, wrapping her arms around her waist. We have proof. We showed Daddy. He knows you didn't do it. Mama Elena, please don't go. Hana's voice was thick with tears. Please. We got sick without you. We missed you so much. Elena dropped her suitcase and fell to her knees, gathering both girls into her arms, pressing kisses to their foreheads, their cheeks, anywhere she could reach. My babies. My sweet babies. Are you okay? Are you eating? Are you... She pulled back, seeing the bandages on their arms. What happened to you? We had fevers, Yuna said simply. Because we were sad. We haven't eaten since you left, Hana added. We were on hunger strike. Hunger strike? Elena's eyes flashed up to June, anger burning through the tears. Your children were starving themselves and you. I didn't know how to reach them. It wasn't an excuse. Just the truth. I didn't know how to fix it. Because the thing they needed was you. The final boarding call echoed through the gate. Elena looked at the door, then at the girls, then at June. He could see her warring with herself, wanting to run, wanting to stay, wanting to protect her heart and these children with equal desperation. Why should I believe you? She asked. Why should I trust you after what you did? You shouldn't. June sank to his knees on the terminal floor, not caring about the crowd gathering, not caring about the phones being pulled out to record. Let them watch. Let them see the great Ryo, June humbled. You shouldn't trust me. You shouldn't forgive me. But please, his voice cracked. Please come back. Not for me. For them. Elena looked at him for a long moment. This dangerous man on his knees in a puddle of rainwater, his daughters clinging to her like lifelines, and something in her face shifted. If I come back, she said slowly, things change. I'm not just the maid anymore. I'm their mother figure, which means you don't make decisions about them without talking to me first. You don't fire me on someone else's word. You don't... Her voice broke. You don't treat me like I'm disposable. Never again. June reached for her hand, and when she didn't pull away, he pressed it to his forehead like a benediction. I swear on my life, on my daughter's lives. You're not disposable. You never were. I was just too stupid and too arrogant to see what was right in front of me. And Minji? Gone. Exiled. If she ever comes near you or my daughters again, she won't live to regret it. Final boarding call for Flight 203 to Los Angeles. Elena looked at the gate one last time. Then she pulled her hand from June's grasp and picked up her suitcase. His heart stopped. But instead of walking toward the door, she turned and carried her suitcase back toward the terminal, the twins hanging off her arms, their laughter ringing like bells through the airport. June stood slowly, his legs unsteady, and watched as Elena Robert walked back into his life. She stopped in front of him, still holding the girls, and looked up at him with eyes that had seen too much pain but might, someday, be willing to risk trusting him again. I'm coming back for them, she said clearly. Not for you. Don't forget that. I won't. And you owe me an apology. A real one. One where you grovel and I get to decide if I accept it. I'll grovel for as long as it takes. Good. She shifted Yuna to her hip, and something that might have been the ghost of a smile touched her lips. Now take your daughters home. Feed them. Put them to bed. I'll be there tomorrow morning. We're going to have a very long conversation about boundaries and respect and how you treat people. Yes, ma'am. This time she did smile. Just a little. I'm not calling you sir anymore, by the way. That dynamic is over. I wouldn't dream of it. June reached out slowly, telegraphing his movement, giving her every chance to refuse. When she didn't pull away, he lifted her free hand to his lips and pressed a kiss to her knuckles. Not passionate, not presumptuous, but reverent. A promise, an apology, a beginning. Thank you, he whispered against her skin, for giving me another chance. Elena pulled her hand back, but gently. Don't make me regret it. Then she was walking away, heading toward the taxi stand, leaving June standing in the terminal with his daughters, and something that felt dangerously close to hope. Come on, Daddy. Hana tugged his hand. Let's go home. Mama Elena will be there tomorrow, and we need to clean her room. It's probably all dusty. And we need to make her welcome home signs, Yuna added. With glitter. June let his daughters pull him toward the exit, their voices bright with plans and excitement and life. Behind them, through the rain-streaked windows, he could see Elena getting into a taxi. She looked back once, caught his eye, and nodded. Not forgiveness. Not yet, but possibility. And for the first time in 3 days, June felt like he could breathe. Please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. We've got more stories about love that defies logic, about people who choose each other against impossible odds, and about the moments that change everything. Check out the other videos on the channel. I think you'll find something that speaks to you. Drop a comment letting me know what you thought of this one, your city, your takeaway, anything. We read every single one. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next.